Breaking news, Mayor Blangiardi has tested positive for COVID-19. More on that in a moment, but first, an arrest has been made in that New York subway station shooting. Gloria Pazamino is live with the latest.
The man police say opened fire inside a crowded subway train yesterday is now in the custody of federal authorities. Police say Frank James phoned in a tip about himself. Police arresting him without incident just a couple of hours ago in Manhattan, not far from here, a day after he opened fire inside that subway car, injuring 29 people. 10 of them remain in the hospital.
We got it.
New York City police say they've arrested 62-year-old Frank James, the man they now call a suspect in Tuesday's subway shooting. James spoke heavily about violence in multiple rambling videos posted online, including what appears to be his latest video posted just one day before the shooting.
I wanted to kill people. I wanted to watch people die right in front of my face immediately. But I thought about the fact that, hey man, I don't want to go to no prison.
The videos posted by James give some insight into his trip to New York City. In one of the videos, James says he left his home in Wisconsin on March 20th and was heading to the, quote, danger zone.
We need to see more mass shootings. Yeah, we need to see more. There has to be more mass shootings.
Police say James rented this U-Haul van on April 11th in Philadelphia. The U-Haul was found in Brooklyn Tuesday after keys to the vehicle were found at the scene of the subway attack. Investigators also linking the gun found at the scene to James and tracking the purchase of a gas mask to James through eBay. That's according to law enforcement officials. The manhunt for James may be over, but the healing for victims is just beginning.
I still feel the pain. They gave me a bunch of pain meds, but it's still there. I can still feel it. I can still see the hole. I don't think I can ever ride the train again.
In Brooklyn, I'm Gloria Pazamino.
We also have a complete write-up of all those developments right now on your H&N digital platforms. Moving on now, we got to get to some other news. There's a bunch of developing stories out there today.
Yeah, breaking today at Honolulu Hale, Honolulu Mayor Rick Blangiardi has tested positive for COVID-19. His communications team says he is isolating and resting at home and notifying close contacts. Now, Blangiardi is fully vaccinated and boosted, but experiencing mild symptoms. The plan is for him to be out of office until after the Easter holiday. And right now, the Honolulu City Council is expected to vote today on a bill that would heavily regulate short-term vacation rentals on Oahu. Bill 41 would only allow short-term vacation accommodations in or next to resort zone areas, such as Waikiki and Turtle Bay, while keeping them out of other residential neighborhoods through most of Oahu. The bill would also require new residential renters to pay for at least 90 days. The council is currently hearing public testimony and is likely to vote sometime today.
And there's even more news new at noon. We got an update regarding Representative Sharon. You'll recall she was acquitted of DUI charges earlier this year. Well, there was a special committee hearing at the House today. I'm going to play out a little bit of what happened.
Why didn't Representative Har appear here today? There have been many questions.
She's not required to, and she, pursuant to our rules, is allowed to be represented by counsel. As
Many of the questions could have been answered had she been here today. Thank you.
Representative Har was not in attendance at this special committee hearing held just a short time ago. They are considering whether Har should be disciplined for her conduct. Har was arrested back in February of 2021 after she was pulled over for driving the wrong direction down one-way Beretania Street. Har issued a public apology shortly after her arrest, saying she had a beer with dinner while she was also taking prescription cough medicine, which contributed to her impairment of driving.
The rules pertain to Representative Har just as well as they pertain to you, me, or the average Joe or Josephine on the street. No one is above the law.
Har was represented at today's hearing by counsel.
It's true, there was a huge amount of public outcry in this case. However, this was, and please don't forget this was before the trial. This was before the trial took place. And at the conclusion of the trial, it's really unfortunate that even the judge was criticized by the prosecutor's office. And it's unfortunate because the criticism was not based on the merits. It's not like something that would be subject to criticism. And we can speak of, and you can think of trials in which that occurred in the past, highly publicized trials. In this case, there was no grounds to criticize the judge because he cited the reasons why he acquitted Representative Sharon Har. For that reason, I'm respectfully asking you to dismiss the petition. Thank you.
The committee made no decision on any discipline action today, but they are going to schedule another hearing soon. To the pandemic now, the State Department of Health is reporting 1,327 new coronavirus cases. Keep in mind this data is over the last 7 days. The DOH is also reporting 8 additional deaths, which raises the state's death toll to 1,390. Meanwhile, Dr. Anthony Fauci worries we might not be getting the full picture of how many people are still coming down with the virus.
Well, I believe that there is undercounting. There has to be, because all of us know that there are people that each of us know who've been infected, who've done a home test, who don't feel particularly ill, maybe asymptomatic, maybe mildly symptomatic, who don't report it to anyone. So I really do think that there's some degree of undercounting. I don't know exactly to what extent that is occurring.
Want to keep you updated on this really important severe weather story. The death toll from a tropical storm that has hit the Philippines has risen to 57. That's according to CNN Philippines. The storm made landfall on Sunday, battering the eastern and southern coast of the country. The storm, which has now passed, has affected more than 200,000 families, with at least 96,000 displaced. This is the first major storm to hit the Philippines this year.
And joining us now is Greta Van Susteren, host of Full Court Press and Hawaii News Now chief national political analyst. Greta, thank you so much for joining us. We'll jump right into it now. The White House held an important call today. The Pentagon had a meeting about the war in Ukraine. What can you tell us about both of these talks?
Yeah, Mark, the phone call today was very important at the White House between President Biden and President Zelensky of Ukraine, because President Zelensky needs help. That's what he keeps saying to the UN, to Congress, to the president. And what happened today, they had an hour-long conversation that resulted in President Biden committing $800 million to further help Ukraine. And that $800 million will be for helicopters, artillery, ammunition, armored personnel carriers. And look, this is on top of the $1.7 billion that the U.S. has already given Ukraine since February 24th. So that's what's happened at the White House. Across the river, at the Pentagon, across the Potomac, at the Pentagon, there was a meeting, and it was with defense contractors, defense suppliers. And that meeting was about resupplying the U.S. I assume that we have those meetings all the time because we have to keep our weapons up to date and supplied. Resupplying the allies, anything that we have typically supplied to allies, there's always a discussion there. But what was a little bit different today is that there was also discussion about supplying Ukraine, because the U.S. has been supplying defensive weapons, defensive things to Ukraine. But naturally, in the course since February 24th, they've used up a lot of it. And the question is that, can we provide them more? What can we get to production to get to Ukraine to help the people in Ukraine?
And what we're also seeing is an absolute humanitarian crisis. Now, yesterday, President Biden called the atrocities in Ukraine a genocide. Now, how does that impact the U.S. plans moving forward?
Well, I'll tell you one thing, is I don't think the White House staff was particularly happy. Look, it's one thing if you're a senator, you can say whatever you want. You can call it genocide. I can call it genocide. You can call it genocide. But when you are the President of the United States, every word that you utter matters, because you speak the policy of the United States. And the policy of the United States is not to be called as genocide for one simple reason. If this is genocide, if the United States calls this genocide, then since we are signatories to the UN Geneva Convention, is we are obligated to take affirmative steps to stop the genocide. And the U.S., if you've been I'm sure you've been paying close attention since February 24th, has tried to say that we don't have anything to do with this war because we don't want Putin to think that it's being escalated, that this is a war with the United States or this is a war with NATO. So, the United States has not wanted to, take those affirmative steps. So the president and the White House have, walked it back a bit. But look, you and I in casual conversation, just about anybody's going to call this genocide when you see what's happening on the ground there. But when the President of the United States speaks, he speaks the policy. And if he changes the policy, if this is genocide, then the U.S. has to take affirmative steps to stop it.
And looking at this, too, just breaking down the steps of this, Putin invaded Ukraine, working to dismantle its pro-Western government and thwart NATO's eastward expansion. But it seems that NATO could still extend its borders?
Well, yeah, because Finland and Sweden are candidates or applicants they want to become part of NATO, and that would enlarge the border between NATO countries and Russia. Look, that was one of the things that Putin said. Look, Putin's been much more aggressive in the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Remember that he invaded Crimea, he annexed Crimea. So this was just another thing that he used when he said that he didn't want Western encroachment into Russia, and that he feared that NATO was trying to come into Russia, or that he was going to have some sort of proxy war with the United States via doing this. But look, this is one of the things that he said is he doesn't want NATO to expand with Ukraine. Well, he's probably going to get NATO to expand with Finland and Sweden. And the curious thing is that when he invaded Ukraine in February 24, is that Ukraine wasn't even close to joining NATO. They were talking about joining the EU for trade purposes, but NATO was far off on the radar screen for Ukraine.
Greta, thank you so much for joining us. Always appreciate your time and insight. Have a great one.
Well, it's been a crime on the rise during the pandemic. Thieves targeting cars, taking part of the exhaust system. Joy Benedict joins us now to explain what's happening.
David Summers' security camera caught a truck pulling up next to his. Then a man with a tool climbs underneath.
And then my security camera alerted me that someone was out front.
Summer ran out on his balcony, and the men quickly took off.
I start screaming at these guys, "You're trying to steal my catalytic converter."
Catalytic converters are valuable because of the rhodium and palladium inside. Thieves can walk onto a driveway and saw one off in a matter of minutes.
Palladium is a very expensive metal. It's more expensive than gold.
Prices for the precious metal have been on the rise for years and then spiked when war broke out in Ukraine because Russia is a major palladium producer. Authorities say criminals get about $200 for one of the stolen devices, but victims have to pay $1,000 to $3,000 for a replacement. At this meat distribution center in Boston, 17 trucks were hit in one night.
They're brazen, they're fast.
Kevin Clower says thieves targeted his truck 3 times in the past few months.
We don't know what it's going to take to stop them.
Clower's insurance paid for the replacement, but not all policies cover it. Car owners can pay a mechanic to engrave their VIN number on the converter. That could deter a thief from taking it, or at least make the part traceable, if they do. Joy Benedict, CBS News, Los Angeles.
And those of you planning to travel soon, the federal transportation mask mandate has been extended until May 3rd. The requirement had been scheduled to expire on Monday, but the CDC is keeping it in place due to the rising cases in many parts of the country.
With inflation hitting a 40-year high, families across the country are feeling the financial pinch. But as Vicki Wynn explains, there are ways to help stretch your dollar.
United States of Sticker Shock.
8.5% remains a 41-year high. You have to go back to 1981.
Inflation climbing to its highest rate in nearly 40 years.
A rise in consumer prices last month at an annual rate of 15%.
And just like then, these days, Americans taking a big hit where it counts, their pocketbooks.
Every week is something new. It's beef prices, it's produce, it's avocados, it's takeout containers. Now it's fuel.
Every time you go and shop, a price of something has gone up by so much. It's insane.
The average household will now spend an estimated $327 more per month to cover the soaring costs of everyday necessities, from gas to groceries. But there are some things you can do to help keep your family's finances in check. Start with making a budget. Know how much money your household earns and spends each month. Then look for ways to save.
We can't control how much higher inflation will be, but we can control how much we spend.
When it comes to debt, know who you owe and how much, along with the interest rate. Experts say if you have multiple loans, consider paying down the one with the highest interest rate first. With mortgage rates topping 4% for the first time since 2019, homeowners who want to refinance should do it now, not later, as the Federal Reserve has promised to raise interest rates to combat inflation.
You might be in a better situation to lock yourself into a mortgage that you can afford long term.
Despite a recent cost of living boost to Social Security benefits, experts also suggest planning more for the future so you don't outlive your money.
Try to fund and add more on a tax-deferred basis into a Roth IRA, traditional IRA, 401k.
And no need to let inflation stop your family vacation.
If you do a little smart planning with points and miles, there's a lot that you can do without really breaking your budget.
And with some breaking news just into our newsroom moments ago, let me pull up the video here to support this story. You know, there was an arrest made in connection to this incident. You'll recall seeing this video. A lot of people have been talking about it. An arson suspect has been arrested in connection to this. This all went down yesterday morning around 8 a.m. at the Chinatown Cultural Plaza. You saw what happened just right there. We're told a 29-year-old has been arrested for allegedly lighting an elderly man on fire. That man was taken to the hospital in serious condition with burn injuries. Just shocking video there, to say the least. We're writing up the details of this new development right now to your H&N digital platforms.
And taking a live look outside right now. Gorgeous afternoon as you see the clouds rolling in, but very picturesque day. Yeah. Guy Hoggy has more in your forecast.
Kind of an in-between day for surf, right? The surf's dropping for west, south, and east shores, although the biggest waves are going to be on the east side. Might even be picking up over the next couple of days because the tradings are going to pick up. And then south shores might get a little bit of a boost over the weekend. And here's what's going on up in the country. There's not a whole lot happening, although Saturday, a minor swell coming in, keeping it from going flat. A bigger swell is expected in sometime around Wednesday. This swell, though, most of the action will be missing us off to the east. So not a lot of surf, but still should be pretty good beach weather. After the morning clouds burn off, we'll have lots of sunshine. High temperature could get to 85 in Honolulu, maybe even warmer over in Kahului, Maui. But those trade winds will help to keep us cool. They'll be blowing firm today at 15 to 20. And that's why there is a small craft advisory, the only weather alert, which is near the Big Island and Maui for those coastal waters. And because of all the sunshine, that UV index extreme at 11.
Feral chickens running wild in many neighborhoods, but some lawmakers are trying to control the population. Billy V has the story.
Thank you very much. We're in Aiea, Pearl City. This is an area where many of the residents have been complaining about feral chickens and their populations, how they've grown. There is a Senate Bill 2195 that is going through the state legislature right now. It was introduced by State Senator Benet Misalucha.
People were so frustrated by the fact that we have feral chickens that abound, and these feral chickens are really a bane. When you think about the fact that not only are they a health hazard, they're also a road hazard, they dig up gardens, and of course, who hasn't been woken up at 2 o'clock in the morning by a crowing rooster?
But the bill is drawing opposition. There is even a group called Save Hawaii Chickens. At last check, more than 700 people have signed their online petition. One Aiea resident we spoke to told us the chickens are a big problem here.
So they feed them along the Aiea stream. People drive up and they, put out food. And then some of the neighborhood people are feeding as well. So it's just helping them to grow and populate even faster.
The bill is still being debated in the legislature, but they don't have a lot of time, only a few more weeks to agree on a final version. And if you wanted to report feral chickens, how do you do that? Well, it's a complicated process. It depends on where the chickens are, whose land that they're on. You can find the information on our website at hawaiinewsnow.com.
Thank you very much, Billy V. Let's see what the internet's talking about today. All right, you can expect a lot of Easter candy in the coming days, I'm sure. And listen to this new recent survey. 65% of Americans say Easter has better holiday candy lineups over Halloween. I'll get your thoughts on that in just a moment. Among the popular treats, Cadbury eggs, Reese's peanut butter eggs, and Starburst jelly beans, which is my favorite Easter candy for sure. I love those Starburst jelly beans. Also noteworthy, Peeps, dun dun dun, which ranked at the bottom of the list.
And they are in the right place on the list,
Yeah,
all right? Peeps are just in the same category as candy corn. A
I was
lot of
gonna say the
discussion,
same
a lot
thing.
of hype, no substance. Never delivers.
I agree, but there's just more and more candy options compared to when we were kids, I would say. There's so much more, like entire grocery store aisles for these holiday treats,
I
right?
have to take a closer look at this survey too on just what exactly were the metrics, because I don't know, to me Easter is not known for its candy. Halloween has the lineup with the different fun size. That's when the peanut M&Ms step in. That's when you got Mr. Goodbar. That's when you got the Reese's peanut butter cups. So interesting to see that Easter is preferred for candy.
And I was just looking at who conducted this survey, the Easter Bunny. No,
Oh,
just
yeah,
kidding.
yeah, okay.
Just kidding. Just kidding. That was by CBS
And
News.
The
Okay.
Peeps were disrespected.
That's where that script came from.
Well, elsewhere in the world of sweets, Nestle Toll House is getting wild. Will now be stuffing its cookie dough. There are two options: chocolate chip cookie dough with fudge filling, and double chocolate cookie dough packed with salted caramel. So, which is your choice, John?
Caramel, for sure. I like the little extra there, for sure. You guys.
That's what we've been asking for, right?
Yeah.
Stuffed cookie dough.
Why not? A little more calories doesn't hurt at all. You guys, good news now time. And have you heard of selfie museums? Well, apparently they're growing in popularity all over the world. Let's turn things over to Tina Kraus with more on just that.
In a world where likes and followers are a social currency, selfie museums are cashing in on the concept.
It's an interactive museum where you create the art you want to see.
Visitors to the museum in Stockholm, Sweden can capture themselves in a pool of candy-colored foam or strike a pose in the emoji room.
You can take cool pictures, create cool content for like your Instagram or your Facebook, or if you do TikToks, it's the perfect place to do TikToks.
Shamie Ouchie and her friends are hooked.
It's so cute here. Oh my God, it's so cute.
The interactive idea is generating likes around the world. Hollywood's Museum of Selfies opened a few years ago. Now other big cities in the U.S. are catering to social media influencers.
I think that's the way the world is now.
70-year-old Bill Bergwinkle is embracing the trend with his teenage niece.
Taking wild photos, it's kind of good.
And for a selfie generation where image is everything, creating the coolest content wins. Tina Kraus, CBS News, London.
Okay, I actually have been to one of those. I didn't realize it was called a selfie museum, but it was more...
How would you rate the experience?
It was really cool, but it was billed as an interactive art encounter, but it was just like that. It was a bunch of light displays and things you could selfie in front of, but it wasn't called a selfie museum.
I have to say, I would not take full advantage of the selfie museum. I'm not a big taker of selfies, and so yeah, it'd be just a waste of money to get me a ticket to go there.
Yeah, but you always take a good picture, my friend. You guys, that's going to do it for This Is Now on this halfway through the work week Wednesday. We've made it this far. I wanted to leave you with something just beautiful. The flowers are in bloom in the Netherlands, and let's leave you with just that.